All right. Season 3 of has finally wrapped up. It's done, and boy, was it peak. It was amazing. I still need some time to decide, but it might even be better than season 1. I mean, we got to just see. I'm planning on rewatching the whole series, like, now that all of season 3 is out, but it is so good. And this is from someone who I've never read the comics before. I just have picked up the show, which I'm assuming is a lot of the viewers of the show, and I absolutely love it. But I can't help but like start theorizing and trying to come up with predictions for what is going to happen in season 4. But it's a little bit different than like a Marvel movie or show, right? Because Marvel movies and shows are very loose adaptation of the comic. So they could go in any directions. It's not a direct adaptation of its source material, but I know there's some deviations here and there, but is pretty much a beat for beat adaptation of Robert Kirkman's story, his comic book series. And so they're just bringing it to the screen for general audiences. But I thought it'd be fun to see if I can predict what's going to happen next in season 4 of Invincible. But without having read any of the comics. And let me just say this. I think this goes without saying, but spoilers for season 3 and just all of the first 3 seasons of. So you've been warned. All right, so my very first prediction for season 4 of is that we find out that Rexplode is actually alive, that he did not die. There's a few reasons why I think that this is the case. One, has actually barely killed off, like, finally any characters. Duplicate, Immortal, Angstrom Levy, like, all of these characters have died in pretty insane ways and then have come back. Like, they've never actually died. And so that makes me think that, especially with the arc that they were setting up in season 3 with Rex, and then his sacrifice just fell kind of flat. Like, it felt rushed. It wasn't very emotional. The funeral scene in the last episode felt kind of stale. It didn't even feel like Rex was the focus. It felt like Eve and Mark were the focus, which I didn't hate because I love their relationship, but it feels like they skimmed past it too much for it to be his final hurrah. You know what I mean? Because he has become a huge fan favorite character over the past 3 seasons, and he's one of, like, he's not necessarily one of my favorite characters, but I know that the community loves this character, that they have adapted him so well, and for them to just kill him off in kind of like a whatever way, and then his send-off is also just kind of rushed. I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me, and it doesn't feel like that's what they would do for a character of his caliber in this show. And so my prediction is that he comes back or is still alive, clone, multiverse, whatever. A Rexplode character will make a return as a series regular in season 4. My next theory and prediction for season 4 is that Oliver actually turns evil. We kind of saw hints of it here and there throughout the season, that he's a little bit more malicious. He's a little bit more angry than Mark is. And he seems very similar to season 1 Omni-Man in that he doesn't really see the value in human life. Like, he thinks that because he's more powerful that, like, he's superior to them, which is very Viltrumite mentality. And we see Mark trying to coach him up and teach him, but at the end of this season, we see Mark kind of settle in and say, you know what, like, I'm okay with killing people. And I understand how he got to that conclusion, but I don't know if Oliver is going to take that in the direction he's supposed to. I don't know if he's going to interpret it the way he should. I actually see Oliver going a completely different direction, and I don't know if he grows up in the next season or if he stays the same age, but I can totally see him becoming not necessarily an antagonist, but turning evil, like being more inclined to kill and just becoming a more traditional Viltrumite in season 4. Now, my next one, it's kind of a prediction, but also just like a hope and a prayer, is that Omni-Man makes his return to Earth in season 4 and becomes a much more prominent character, just like in season 1. I love J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man. I think it's a phenomenal performance. He's such a complex and interesting character. And while I was a little bummed that he was pretty much sidelined this season, I understand that the story didn't really necessitate him. Like, season 3 was phenomenal, and I loved what they were doing. And Omni-Man's character didn't necessarily fit quite right in it, so I get it. But I really think that they sidelined him to have a major comeback in season 4. I think he'll come back. I think he'll try and mend his relationship with Mark, try and be a little bit more of a hero, try and work on things with Debbie, which will complicate things with her and Paul, right? Like, I just think that it will enrich the story, be really cool to see what his return does for all the different people in his life. I think it could be a lot of fun and very, very good television. And I just really hope to see more Omni-Man. I love Omni-Man. And then my final prediction for season 4 is that Conquest comes back to life. We saw that Cecil kept part of his body alive, and I'm assuming he's planning on bringing him back to life in some capacity. He thinks that he can stop him, but we know there's no way that Cecil keeps him and he doesn't come back to life and he doesn't pose a threat. And so I think that Conquest will come back to life and he will utilize the variant from the war, like the multiverse variants of Mark, the Reaniman that D.A. Sinclair has created using their bodies, and turn them into a new army for himself to stop Mark and kill him and take over Earth, all the things. I think that could be really fun. I don't know if that's a finale type episode or if that's like somewhere in the middle, but I think it'd be really cool to see a resurrected Conquest. He's no longer playing with Mark. He's no longer like arrogant. He knows that Mark is a viable threat and that Adam Eve is a viable threat, which is what really happened in that finale. And he's not playing games anymore. And to see him come back and with the Reaniman just taking him on, I think it could be so much fun. Great action, great violence. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think it could be awesome. Anyone that has not read the comics, let me know in the comments. Do you like my predictions? Do you think there's a chance they come true? What are your predictions for season 4? And if you have read the comics, please don't spoil anything. Please don't tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong or what actually is happening. Don't correct me. Nothing. I'm trying to go in as spoiler-free as possible. I know the comics came out a long time ago, but I have thankfully been able to avoid all the spoilers from the internet so far, and so I plan on doing that going into season 4. So let me know in the comments what you think. Deuskies, homies.